Is it a live stream?
Okay, that's good. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for coming. This ground that Jeff has been preparing for several years. It wasn't his occasion, but you're all very welcome. And I think, like many of you, over the last few days, we've been thinking a lot about Jeff and all sorts of memories. And I've put a few of these together just to try and give a picture of what I felt Jeff was like. Jeff was a professional engineer, and there's no higher accolade I could give anyone than that. He lived in the real world. He figured out what was required in any situation. He planned, he sorted out things, and things got done. His world was focused on the family, land and water, and activity. He had no time for flummery, fashion, images, screen worship of celebrities. Growing up in Eastbourne, the beach and the bush were bred into him. The record boyhood catch in Eastbourne of 66 kingfish in one haul hasn't been beaten to this time. And that was a long time ago. We got thrippence a pound for the fish at the fish and chip shop. But that was quite some time ago, and Jeff continued to be active. If you had been in the Eastbourne Gastro pub at the Still Room, early December, 3rd of December in fact, you would have heard Jeff. We'd just returned from you can see the picture there. We'd just returned from the bush, spending a day in the bush, and you would have heard Jeff singing and then reciting aloud through the pub Colin Webster Watson's poems to the intrepid possum busters of Eastbourne. We were there to have a dinner to celebrate the bird life growth and the bush life growth after dispatching our 1,000th possum in the bush behind Eastbourne. Jeff erratically came down to Eastbourne for this expedition, and it worked. In his work, Jeff used the land's products for creating real things such as bridges and factories. As a partner in the consulting engineering company, he specialized in the food processing industry. He was good at it, he was highly respected, and it was a gratifying career. But Jeff loved the sea. His first home for Heather and then the children was on the Eastbourne foreshore. And then the last home is the attractive apartment around the corner from here on Hamilton Beach. Apparently it has riparian rights, and it's got Jeff's boat shed with a ramp linking sand and the land and the sea. And a lot of time, wine, beer, and soft sea spray was spent and enjoyed on that ramp. And the apples haven't dropped far from the trees. You've got Brent with his boat Nauru in the Marlborough Sound, Nigel regularly heading down to the 10-metre plus swells in the Southern Ocean, and Jamie, although he's not here, he's listening in on this, Jamie enjoying the bounty of the Tasmanian seafood. When Jeff first came up to Auckland, he found that every blue-blooded Aucklander had to have a yacht. So he bought one. It was moored well offshore in Devonport, but the long row was no hassle. As far as Jeff was concerned, the yacht wasn't getting from A to B. It was for enjoying, for being on the sea. And he did, although the first family holiday trip on the yacht didn't go too well. So Jeff, in engineering style, adopted Plan B, a family holiday in Bali. Well, that did work out well, and with Heather's enthusiasm and computer search skills, a wealth of overseas trips followed throughout the years. Jeff was always keen to investigate and try new experiences. I remember back to a chemistry laboratory class we had at Wellington College. The objective was to see the characteristic flame that came from the sulfur compound when it was heated. We were warned not to heat it too much. Well, Geoff thought the flame was boring. So he turned his Bunsen burner to full blast to see what would happen. The room filled with pungent smoke. The master hollered out, "Oh, Holland, I told you not to do that." So Geoff's reply was, "The name is Hollands." Limby came back, "No, thank you. One of you in my class is more than enough." At Canterbury University, Geoff took up judo, and he was extolling the virtues of that one night in this place by the sea in Eastbourne. And a friend, KB, whose father was a wrestler of renown, started to agitate Geoff a bit. He said, "All this Ponsonby and stuff, wrestling is much better." So he lunged at Geoff. Geoff executed a textbook Ogoshi movement. For those who haven't done Ogoshi, you'll realize, put your hip out a bit, you have to think, come over, swing the assailant around your waist, and then deposit them on the ground on his back. Well, Geoff was somewhat taller than average, and so his waist high happened to be tabletop high, and so the assailant's feet, as he went round his waist, swept the drink table completely free of beer, particularly all the half-gallon jars that we had in those days. Well, that was typical Geoff. Although not as quiet as normal, he had made his point, the job was done, the table was clean for supper, and the mere bagatelle of a bit of glass and beer all over the floor could be dealt with later. Another characteristic that enhanced the pleasure of work and play with Geoff was his discipline. And the Hollands and the Savills will recall this, where we shared a ski house in Rangitau. And whilst Geoff enjoyed the Apway ski life, the objective we were there for was to go skiing. Now, to get the best skiing at two-rower, you have to be in the first 2 rows in the car park. You've got to get up there early. So Geoff made sure that everybody had their gear and their lunches already packed so we could get away early in the morning. So even Geoff's special Princess Pip and healthy or health-conscious Heather, they were not allowed brown toast for breakfast on those mornings. So, oh no, white toast cooked in 1/3 the time. It was a practical calculation, and neither fashion nor fad could beat function for Geoff. Even Geoff's handwriting, those of you who have experienced will be sympathetic with this. It was beautiful. What do you write things down for? So you can read them and get a message across later. And it's easier and there's no problems if you write clearly and definitely. It's almost copperplate. And it was Geoff. Everything was clear, clean, and easy. So in the 75 years I shared with him, to Muirtai Primary School in Eastbourne, to Wellington College, Canterbury University, the family development, career development, and then our early retirement year that Dawn and I shared with Geoff and Heather living in France and Italy. Geoff was a quietly competent, active achiever in the real world and a wonderful friend. Thank you, Geoff, from all of us. Nigel's going to say a few words on behalf of the family.
G'day, I'm Nigel. I'm Dad's second son, and just wanted to say a few words on behalf of our family. Welcome and thanks to you all for coming today to celebrate our dad, and thank you for the tennis club for letting us hold this gathering here, and for the caterers, Linda and Mum, and Brent and the conch team for the lovely food, and Dad's dear friend Mick for ticking things along today. Just want to pay thanks to everyone far and wide for all your thoughtful messages over this period of time. Your kindness has been felt. Thank you for all the flowers that have been sent. Mum and Dad's apartment looks more like a tropical jungle every day. I'd just like to acknowledge my younger brother Jamie and his partner Berna and their kids Eden, Frankie and Abel, who are over in Tasmania and couldn't be part of this. Also my son Ben, who is also in Australia, and mum's sister Janet and Michael, husband Michael, who are in France. They have all felt pretty far away in this past week, but their love and presence has been felt by all. Yes, it's been a big few days since Dad's passing. First feeling we all had was shock. When the mightiest tree in your forest falls, it leaves a big gap. This tree was always there with roots so deep and provided us shelter in its branches and protection under its cover. This gap will always be there, but the environment created under its canopy, things will still grow on and flourish. And then we've all felt grief. Some of us, something all of us here have felt having Dad passing away so suddenly. The grief of his departure has been strong. Grief is just love with no place to go. So please don't let that love go to waste. Share it with your close ones and show them how you feel about them. Use that grief in a positive way. And then there's been a feeling overwhelming gratitude. I'm standing here today feeling so grateful that we had an amazing dad for as long as we have him. We've had him for a lot longer than many, and he was a granddad that made all of his grandchildren feel like they were very special in their own way. So, yes, it all started a long time ago in a faraway place. Heather met Geoff, and 57 years ago they became husband and wife. Yep, that's a few moons and many hot dinners ago. It wasn't long after this marriage that they started bringing me and my two brothers and my sister into this world. And that was done in very quick succession, I might add. And that's when our good luck started. We got lucky, all right. They provided us with what we needed to grow. This is when we learned one of our first lessons off Dad, the value of friends. Their friends were close and lifelong. We shared barbecues, Guy Fawkes, Christmases, family walks over to Butterfly Creek, holidays in Ōrākara, and many, many skiing trips to Ringatao, overseas trips, and much, much more. These friends, they treated us like their own kids and not their friends' kids. And we were more like brothers and sisters to their kids than friends. This gave us a safe and thriving environment to grow in, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, 57 years of marriage is a long time, and yeah, we've got to take our hat off to my dad, who somehow in that time only managed to cook a handful of meals. Though the jury is still out on as to whether he actually didn't want to cook or that he wasn't allowed. My money's on the latter, because my mum is amazing in the kitchen. Dad's phrases growing up, like, you only get out of life what you put into it, and nothing comes for free, and many more are still ringing in my ears. Dad worked hard for his family and didn't want for much. 40 years plus as a civil engineer. And if that wasn't enough, after retiring, he did 12 years at this very tennis club and 10 years as a volunteer at Ronald McDonald House. Even with the volunteer work, he and Mum would schedule their trips away around their scheduled days of work. I would just tell him to use his annual leave, or they could take it out of his pay. Dad wouldn't have a bar of it. Dad never let anyone down, ever. Dad was always there for us all in all regards, and always loved showing up on any of our building projects and ready to get stuck in. and his handiwork is still there on many of our houses and projects that we've been involved with. Yes, I got lucky, we all got lucky, and everyone that ever met Dad did too. Thank you for that. Just want to say a few words on behalf of my sister, Pip. We all know that Pip was Dad's little princess, and if you do the maths and you see our family, it goes boy, 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 girl. So that tells you that Dad wasn't going to stop till he got his little girl, and that was amazing. So it's just a few words from my sister Pip. Dad, thank you for being the best dad and granddad we could have ever asked for. As far as dads go, we really hit the jackpot with you. You were there whenever we needed help without even asking, teaching us in the best way by just being an example, cheering us on and supporting our decisions, even if they weren't the best, and loving us unconditionally, never with any judgment. Years may come and go, but you will live on forever. You will always be in my heart until we meet again. Thank you, Dad. You are my sunshine. I miss you and I love you. Thanks for that. If anyone else wants to say something, they're welcome to come up.
Thanks, Nigel. I'm Brent, the oldest son, and as Nigel said, thank you everyone for coming. It was raining when Dad passed, and it was raining when we took his body to return to ashes, and today it rained as well. Many tears have fallen for our father from us as a family, and today we celebrate and speak of your life, Dad, that you had, and the gift that you were to us alive, and the gifts you have given us to go on with. Eastbourne was a beautiful place to grow up. So today I want to acknowledge and thank the families that we grew up with. The people of my mum and dad's generation in Eastbourne and Wellington. And as I grew older, I realised that the type of person I strive to be was imprinted and formed by my mum and dad and their adult friends and families that we were brought up around. And as I recently hear of other great people passing, like Ian Small and Peter Smuts Kennedy, and to name two, and now our dad, and Dad, if those two are still up in the lobby, you're in big trouble. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank today Mum and Dad and the wonderful people and generation that formed each other with their love and kindness and values. Values that have shaped who my brothers and sister and I are today. Values that continue into our children and beyond. This is Dad's legacy within us, and it's the greatest treasure. When I was young, my dad and I had a bit of a engineer versus the artist relationship. I must have frustrated him a lot. That my dreamy hand-drawn circle would not fit into his perfectly engineered box. But as soon as he figured out that was not going to work, he supported me in everything and anything I did, endlessly, for his whole life. When we were growing up, Dad wasn't exactly the I love you and cuddle person. And his advice was mostly heavily practical. But there was something else, something that you felt that you couldn't always understand about him. Equated to there being nothing missing. That equated to there being nothing missing. In fact, something special that was in abundance. Dad was, as Mum, forever generous, forever kind, and forever selfless to us. I remember standing in front of a painting a few decades back and reading a quote written on it. There was no genuine declaration of love, but the act of it. And Dad's life was one continuous act of love to all those around him and that he met. Dad, I love you, and I love the life you lived. Thank you for every second you shared with me. You're always there beside me, even when I wanted to cross the Cook Strait in my 8-metre boat when he was 78. A trip I will treasure forever. Mum, we love you. We got you. We're going to be there for you. And to Dad's grandchildren, we know how much you loved them and how much he loved you. We will be strong with every breath for you and continue with our greatest ability with the example that Granddad has set. And to all his friends, thank you. He loved being in the world with you. Here comes Frank.
Pakaria mai ori peka tiao mai raroto i pepo e ono au itireatu ai oramate e au oano ai aria mai tori pekakiao tiao mai raroto itepo e ono titiria tuai oramate e ono just wanted to dedicate the song to Jeff. This particular song is a Swedish song. You wouldn't think it from the way I sang it, because it's the Maori text, and it came to Maori, I think, via How Great Thou Art in English. But it originated in Sweden, and Jeff knew that very well, because I sang it to him before. And it is a wonderful tune, I think, in any language you sing it. And I read somewhere that it doesn't matter how long or short we live. What matters is how much light we are able to shed on those we love and how many people we touched with our compassion. I think all these little quotes I have here sit very well in describing Jeff's character. Eternal life belongs to those who live in the present. And I think he was a master of that. He was forever young. We thought he would go forever. When he tripped around here at the tennis court. In fact, he joined the court when I was president. I thought he'd be a good mate to enlist. And he was. And he survived me by so many years as part of the management of the club. And I have a few stories about Jeff as well. See, I only have one page, so I won't be long. But we did a lot of travel together. We traveled to Petra, for example, where we celebrated Linda's birthday. It was 40th or something like that, or maybe 50th. But we had a really good time out there in the desert. Alcohol-free party served by Bedouins. And then we traveled to Rava Island in Malaysia to celebrate Jeff's 60th birthday. And we had an absolutely wonderful time in the tropics. And of course, Jeff had traveled to see us in Sweden as well a few times. And I remember playing boggle in the sand in the French Riviera with Heather and Jeff. And I can't remember if I beat them, but I probably did. And they have been dining and swimming in Tairoa. And we've had many visits to Clevedon Polo Games. So it looks like a long line of celebration of the life we have lived together with Jeff. And of course, I know Heather twice as well as I know Jeff. But if Jeff is only half as good as Heather, he's formidable. I know that. And when I get to the end of this, I was thinking about the Japanese word ki, K-I, which means tree. And trees were alluded to, that Jeff loved trees. And this spot here is a bit divine, surrounded by beautiful trees. But in Japanese, ki also means soul. And it means almost anything that's worth remembering, like air, atmosphere, flavor, heart, mind, spirit, feelings, humor, and intention, mind, and will. So the word is sort of all-encompassing. So if you don't travel to Japan, ki is all you need to remember, basically. And that is the tree. And I was thinking of Jeff also. He had to prune a few trees here. And I see him also at his apartment, sitting on the balcony, which looks like a tree house if you see it from the sea. And he was sort of catching a nice tan. And he could almost get his fishing rod right into the water from the balcony. And then I just wanted to end up with a song about the tree also. You may know, I do hold the mic a little bit away from me when I sing, otherwise you get trouble with your ears. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day, and leaves are leaping on to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Oh, rams are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. So finally, I would like to say that it's up to all of us to honor Jeff's legacy of energy, kindness, and joy de vivre. Thank you, Geoffrey, for all the light you have brought to us all. Thank you.
If anyone else wants to say anything before we go in and dine, you're most welcome. Okay, and we go. Enjoy the snacks.
It's obviously related to It just looks a bit terrifying.